Hi, my name's John. Welcome to all the RoadCyclingUK watchers and readers. We're here today at Ride in Poole for the first of our set of maintenance videos. Today we're going to be looking at bottom brackets. There's a lot of bottom brackets on the market, a lot of different standards. One of the most common and one of the ones you'll come across more often than not is the Shimano HollowTech II system. It's been around for a while, tried and tested, very reliable. But there are going to be occasions when you might want to have a little look inside, see what's going on there. We're right in the middle of winter at the moment. It's very wet, very cold. A lot of wet rides going down at the moment. Water gets into the frame through various areas, back of the seat tube, various holes in the frame. It's good to take the bottom bracket out now and again just to have a look in there, see if there is a water build-up, clean it out. Or you might have an annoying creak. Creaks can come from a number of places. Let's say you've narrowed it down to the bottom bracket. We're going to need to take that out, have a little look at it, see what's going on, and see if we can't rectify it. So we'll get into it. It's not a difficult job, requires very few tools as well. We'll run you through the tools as we use them. Yeah, let's get into it. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to drop the chain off the big chainring onto the small chainring. Just makes life easier for us. After that, we can manually remove the chain from the chainrings. Just set it to rest on the bottom bracket itself. Gives you a free spinning chain set. First up, we're going to take our 5mm Allen key and we're going to loosen the two pinch bolts on opposite sides of the crank arm. That just releases the tension on the crank arm against the bottom bracket. Next up, you're going to need some small pick, small screwdriver, something like that, just to remove a small clip in between the bolts, which is a safety device. Should those bolts come loose while you're riding, that safety device is going to hold the crank on, make sure it doesn't just drop off mid-ride. After that, you're going to need a special tool from Shimano. Shimano make a little one like that. It used to come with the cranks, doesn't come with them anymore, you need to get one of those. You can double up if you like. Park make a great tool, does the bottom bracket cups, also has this little gizmo on the end, same as this one. So I prefer to use this, so we're going to use this one. Literally just fits in the end cap of the crank. You can unwind that. It'll drop out. There it is. Set that to one side somewhere safe. And the left hand crank arm will just wiggle off. So there we go. Left hand crank arm. Set that to one side. And then it's time to remove the right hand crank arm. Now, sometimes this will be a bit stubborn. It may need a little tap with a mallet. This one will come out without one, but if you need to give it a little knock, just a rubber faced mallet will free that up and you'll be able to, again, wiggle it out of the way. So this is the HollowTech II setup. Bottom bracket axle is captive in the right hand crank arm. It's a very stiff, very robust system. We'll pop that to one side. So just remove the chain out of the way and you see the cup mechanisms threaded into the frame here. So we grab our park tool spanner, slot that on. It's like a spline or a semi-splined system, so the splines on the spanner engage with the splines on the cup. And now it's worth remembering at this point that these cups don't undo in the usual fashion. So the right hand cup undoes clockwise. Normally that's the doing up rotation. In this case, on the bottom bracket of this type, it's the undoing. So push down, anti-clockwise, and free it off. The cups are marked quite handily with an arrow to tell you which way to tighten them up. Obviously you just move it the opposite direction to untighten it. So once you get it loose, you can probably get in there with your hand just to speed things up. Okay, the right hand cup removed. Set that to one side. Move on to the left hand cup. Now this one undoes in the usual fashion, so this will undo anti-clockwise. Again, Once you've loosened it, there's no need to continue using the spanner. You can just get in there and use your hand to speed things along. And that's that. Bottom bracket, cranks, everything all removed from the frame. So at this point you can check the threads, make sure the threads are undamaged. Check for water. You'll be able to see the water pooling up in the bottom bracket here if it is there. Get a rag, clean it out, a good wipe round, clean all the threads out, any dirt, grit, rust, swarf, get that all out so we've got a nice clean bottom bracket shell. Next thing to do is to check the cups. So you can check the bearing. This one's nice and smooth. There's a little bit of water in here perhaps, so again this is clean. Clean any of the water off of here, out the back of the bearings. Once that's all clean and shiny, you're happy with the condition of the bearing. It should feel smooth. There may be a small amount of drag, that's just the seals and the grease. As long as it doesn't feel rough, notchy, or there's not excessive amounts of brown gunk and ooze coming out of the bearings, then that's good to go back in. Same with the other side. Now the other side usually has the plastic sleeve attached. The plastic sleeve is to stop any grit and muck that comes in through the frame tubes reaching the bearings from the inside. So leave that in place. Again, good clean round. Wipe it all round. And again, check the bearing. This one's good to go. You can buy replacement units of various levels depending on the setup on your bike. So the next thing you want to do is grease. So your grease of choice, we use this stuff here at the shop. Grease gun, real advantage. You can really pinpoint accurately apply your grease without getting your hands too dirty as well. So nice amount of grease on there. I like to put some in the bottom bracket shell as well. And just put a nice smear in there. What happens if you only put it on the threads here, as you thread it back into the bottom bracket, the grease is actually pushed off of the threads and you can end up really with not a lot of grease between the threads on the bottom bracket and the bottom bracket shell. So put a bit on both faces, that way it ensures you get good coverage. Again, we're trying to stop those creaks and keep that water ingress to a minimum. So, and do both sides before you start putting anything together. So we come around, we'll do this side, bit of grease. Once the right hand cup's in place with the sleeve, it makes it difficult to get to the threads on the left hand side if you haven't already pre-greased them. So put a bit of grease on there. And again, just like before, with our hand, we can just start to thread this in. So that's the left hand side, it goes in there. The right hand side, and again you can see the arrows tell you which way to tighten. Sometimes it's easy to get them started if you just turn them in the opposite direction to start with. Kind of picks up the thread once you feel it, and you can turn it in the correct direction. So you can get these relatively far in with your hands if the threads are good. If you have a problem with the threads, if the threads are damaged or they are exceptionally coarse or tight, you can have them chased. It's best you take that to a bike shop to have that sort of job done. That will clean out the threads, clean out any of the mess in the threads on the frame itself, and enable you to fit the bottom bracket without any mishaps. If you do come across any resistance, I really urge you to just to stop and have a look, see what's going on. If you try and force those cups in there, potentially you could end up writing off a frame, and that's something you don't want to do. So take your rag again, just gives you a bit more grip on the cup. Snug that up against the frame. Same on the other side. Good opportunity just to get rid of any of the grease you may have smeared. Once the chain set's in place, you won't be able to get to it. So clean that up. Back with the pedal spanner. And snug this up. Now remember, this side is doing up the opposite way to the way you'd expect, so it actually tightens anti-clockwise. Just a good hand tight is fine. You can use a torque wrench. but about as hard as you can tighten it with a spanner of this length is perfectly adequate. So that's pretty tight. Back to the chain set. So we're going to put a little bit of grease on the inside of here. Again, you get in with your finger and smear it, make sure it's well distributed. Move the chain out of the way. It's going to hook back on there. Pop the axle in, slide it back through, and then put the chain back on the small chain ring as soon as possible, just to save it rubbing on any of the paintwork on the frame or anything. You don't want to damage that. Just check it spins freely. This one does. Left hand crank arm, obviously opposite. This on the Shimano system, it will only go on in one way. You can't put it on incorrectly, so you couldn't put it on at, at a right angle. You can only put it on at 180 degrees. Put that on, snug it up with your hand. Take the end cap again, pop that in. Take your Shimano tool again. Locate that. About as tight again as you can do it. The tool's kind of been designed so that you can do it to the right torque with the size of the tool in the hand. So just like I say, about as tight as you can get it with the tool. That's that. And then your 5mm once more. And now this is quite important. Do the pinch bolts up one at a time. Do the inside one first until it's tight. Do the outside one until that one's tight. Then go back and check the inside one, and it will probably feel a little looser again. So give that one another nip. Back to the outside one, another nip. That's that. Don't forget the little safety clip. That'll just clip down. Pretty much you're done. It's always worth, once you've done this, just to go back and just check the function of the front derailleur. If anything's misaligned with the bottom bracket or the chain set, maybe it's not seated far enough in or it's too far out, it will play up your front shifting. So just make sure the function of that works. This one does. Simple as that. It's all done. We're ready for another few miles on the winter roads.